Selena Gomez was rushing to her morning meeting when she heard the faintest whimper coming from beneath a rusted dumpster. What she found there would haunt her for days and change everything she thought she knew about fate. Before we dive into this incredible story, drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever rescued an animal? Type yes or no. I read every single comment. It was 6:47 a.m. on a gray Tuesday morning in downtown Los Angeles. The October air carried that crisp bite that made you pull your jacket tighter. Selena had chosen to walk the 6 blocks to her studio meeting instead of driving, a decision that seemed random at the time, but would prove to be anything but coincidence. The streets were nearly empty except for a few early commuters and the occasional delivery truck rumbling past. That's when she heard it. A sound so soft, so desperate, that most people would have missed it entirely. But Selena stopped dead in her tracks. 3 weeks earlier, a tiny golden retriever puppy named Charlie had been living the perfect life. He belonged to an elderly man named Frank who lived alone in a small apartment just 2 miles from where Selena now stood. Frank had rescued Charlie from shelter 6 months prior, and they were inseparable. Every morning, they'd walk to the corner cafe. Every evening, Charlie would curl up on Frank's lap while he watched the news. But life is a way of changing in an instant. Frank suffered a sudden heart attack while walking Charlie near the busy intersection of Sunset and Vine. In the chaos that followed, the ambulance, the paramedics, the rush to the hospital, Charlie's leash slipped from Frank's hand. The terrified puppy bolted into the maze of Los Angeles streets. For 3 weeks, Charlie had been surviving on scraps from dumpsters and rainwater for puddles. His golden fur, once shiny and soft, was now matted and dirty. He'd lost nearly half his body weight. But worse than the hunger was the loneliness. Every person who walked by reminded him of Frank, and every time someone ignored his desperate eyes, a little more hope died inside him. Selena had always been drawn to strays, both animals and people. Growing up, her family's house was a revolving door for neighborhood cats and dogs that needed help. "Mom, can we keep him?" had been her favorite phrase as a child. Her mother would always say yes, and their home became known as the unofficial animal sanctuary of their block. But lately, Selena had been struggling with her own sense of purpose. Despite her success, she'd been feeling disconnected, like something was missing. She'd been in therapy, working through anxiety and the pressures of fame, but nothing seemed to fill the void she felt growing inside her. She didn't know it yet, but she was about to discover that sometimes saving someone else is exactly what you need to save yourself. While Selena was dealing with sleepless nights and the weight of expectations, Charlie was fighting a different kind of battle. Every night, he would curl up in whatever dry spot he could find, his body shaking not just from cold, but from the trauma of abandonment. He'd dream of Frank's gentle voice calling his name, only to wake up to the harsh reality of concrete and car exhaust. One particularly brutal night, Charlie had taken shelter under a parked car during a thunderstorm. The rain was coming down in sheets, and he was soaked to the bone. A group of teenagers found him there and threw rocks at him, laughing as he scrambled away, limping on a paw that was now swollen and infected. Meanwhile, Selena was sitting in her Beverly Hills home, scrolling through social media, feeling more alone than ever despite being surrounded by luxury. She'd been thinking about getting a pet, something to come home to, something that would love her unconditionally. But her schedule was packed, her life chaotic. Maybe someday, she kept telling herself. She had no idea that someday was about to become today. By this Tuesday morning, Charlie had given up trying to approach people. Too many had shooed him away, called him dirty, or simply pretended he didn't exist. He'd found a small space beneath the dumpster behind a coffee shop where he could hide from the world. His infected paw throbbed with pain, and he hadn't eaten in 2 days. In his puppy mind, he began to accept that Frank was never coming back, and maybe neither was hope. Selena, rushing to her meeting, was completely absorbed in her phone, responding to texts from her manager about schedule changes. She almost walked right past the alley. Almost. But as she reached the corner, something made her pause. Call it intuition, call it fate, or call it the universe intervening, but she stopped. That's when she heard it. The softest whimper, barely audible above the city's morning hum. Selena looked around, confused. The sound came again, and this time, she followed it. She walked slowly into the alley, her heels clicking against the wet pavement. "Hello," she called softly. "Is someone there?" The whimpering stopped. Charlie, hidden beneath the dumpster, held his breath. In his experience, human voices meant danger. But something about this voice was different. It was gentle, concerned. Still, he remained frozen, too scared to move. Selena crouched down and peered under the dumpster. What she saw nearly broke her heart. Two big, golden eyes stared back at her from a face that was equal parts hope and terror. The puppy was so thin she could see his ribs, his fur matted with dirt and debris. "Oh my God," she whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. "Hey, baby, what are you doing under there?" Charlie's entire body began to tremble, not from fear this time, but from something he hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. This person wasn't yelling at him or throwing things. She was talking to him the way Frank used to, with kindness in her voice. Selena slowly extended her hand, palm up. "I'm not going to hurt you, sweetheart. I promise." It took 15 minutes of patient coaxing, but finally, Charlie began to inch forward. When Selena's fingers first touched his fur, they both felt it, that instant connection between two souls who needed each other. Tears began streaming down Selena's face as she gently pulled the trembling puppy into her arms. "You're safe now," she whispered, holding him close to her chest. "I've got you." Charlie looked up in her eyes and saw something he'd been searching for: home. For the first time in 3 weeks, his tail gave the faintest wag. As Selena stood up with Charlie in her arms, she heard scratching sounds coming from deeper in the alley. Charlie's ears perked up, and he let out a small bark, not of fear, but of recognition. "What is it, boy?" Selena asked, following his gaze. That's when she saw them. 2 more puppies, slightly older but just as thin and scared, emerging from behind a pile of cardboard boxes. Charlie had been protecting them, sharing what little food he could find, keeping them warm on the coldest nights. He hadn't just been surviving, he'd been leading. Selena's heart swelled. She looked down at Charlie, then at the other 2 puppies who were now approaching cautiously. "You were taking care of them, weren't you?" she asked softly. Charlie licked her face as if to say, "Please don't leave them behind." Without hesitation, Selena made a decision that would change their lives forever. "Okay, babies, we're all going home together." The next few hours were a blur of vet visits, baths, and shopping trips to the pet store. Selena canceled her meetings, ignored her manager's frantic calls, and focused entirely on her new family. The vet confirmed that while all 3 puppies were malnourished and had minor infections, they would make full recoveries with proper care. That first night, Selena set up beds for them in her living room. She sat on the floor, watching as they experienced their first warm meal in weeks. Charlie, despite his own hunger, made sure the other 2 puppies ate first. It was then that Selena realized she hadn't just rescued them. They were teaching her about love, loyalty, and selflessness. She named the other 2 puppies Hope and Grace. As she watched them slowly learn to trust again, she felt something inside herself healing too. The emptiness she'd been feeling began to fill with purpose. 6 months later, Charlie, Hope, and Grace are thriving in their forever home. Charlie's golden fur is shiny again, and his eyes sparkle with joy. Hope has grown into a confident, playful pup who loves to chase tennis balls in Selena's backyard. Grace, the smallest of the 3, has become Selena's shadow, following her everywhere with unwavering devotion. But the real transformation happened in Selena herself. She discovered that the purpose she'd been searching for wasn't found in achievement or recognition. It was found in love, in service, in opening her heart to those who needed her most. Sometimes, Selena said in a recent interview, the thing you're looking for is also looking for you. I thought I was rescuing them, but really, they rescued me. This story proves that miracles happen when we slow down enough to notice the world around us. Every day, there are animals just like Charlie, Hope, and Grace waiting for someone to see them, to choose them, to love them. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And tell me in the comments, what's your most unforgettable animal rescue story? I love reading every single one of your messages, and who knows, your story might be featured in our next video. Remember, you don't have to be a celebrity to be someone's hero. Sometimes, all it takes is stopping long enough to listen for a whisper of hope in the silence.